I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There is no report out this month from closed session, so we will move to the approval of the minutes of the January 11th meeting, the regular board meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. It's moved by John Rodriguez, seconded by Abe Rojas. All those in favor of approving the minutes of January 11th, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carried. Next, we will approve the minutes of January 18th study session. Is there a motion to approve the study session minutes of January 18th?
So moved.
Thank you, Abe. And a second?
Second.
John Rodriguez seconded. All those in favor of approving the Board of Trustees study session, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Any abstentions?
Excuse me, Chair, may I have the first and the second again? I'm having problems with my computer.
Okay, on the 18th? The second motions? Okay, it was moved by Trustee Rojas, approved by Trustee Rodriguez, and the motion carried. Okay, are there any public comments at this time? Sargon? No. Okay. All right. At this time, we are going to go out of order. We are going to move to 6.1, the board policies, second reading, and we're doing this because Connie is not feeling well, and she would like to get this over with and be on her way home, and that would be best for her. So let's move to 6.1, the board policy, second reading.
Thank you so much. And if my voice gives out, just bear with me. So thank you.
I won't ask any more questions.
So I'm looking at second readings. There are 6, and if you have comments on those, I'm ready to take them.
Okay, I'm giving everyone just a little bit more time to find that part in the board packet. As I recall, we pretty much gave our input last month. Nothing seemed controversial. Are there any additional comments or changes for the second reading board policies? All right. If there are none, is there a motion to adopt these second reading of board policies?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you. It's moved by Darren Garrett, seconded by Lynn Martin, that we approve the second reading of these board policies. Now we'll move on to the first reading policies. Connie, go ahead with that, please.
Thank you. So we have 3 before you this evening. And the first, auxiliary organizations. The ad hoc committee met of the board on Monday, and there is a recommendation to table this auxiliary organizations board policy. And the reason is that the district, central services staff are developing an auxiliary manual or handbook right now, excuse me. State level, excuse me. An auxiliary handbook is being developed. And so as that takes shape, that'll really inform this board policy. And so the recommendation is to table that until that takes a little bit more shape.
Is there any objection to doing that? Okay, I think it's a good idea. All right, let's go on to the 2 remaining, please.
I had no changes for 3810. 3-8001, again, the ad hoc committee met on Monday, and you all have at your station there a document with some changes. And it has red where it is recommended revisions from our ad hoc committee as compared to what the attachment is on your agenda. So on the board policy, you'll see that we've added some cross-references. And that's the board policy. Now, for your information, we also bring forward administrative procedures. And in the administrative procedures, there were some recommended revisions. Those occur on page 2, lines 25 and 26. You'll see that we're striking those as a recommendation. And the reason is the intent of this language, which is questions from the media, be directed to the District Director of Public Affairs, MJC President's Office, or Columbia College President's Office, depending on the topic, is clearly articulated in other areas of the procedure. And so that was redundant and unnecessary there, and in some ways created some lack of clarity. And then on the third page, line 18, we're adding a little bit to that sentence so that we can describe, in accordance with the regulation of the Fair Political Practices Commission. And so we looked at that regulation and we're adding 18901, so we have a really clear reference. And you can see we're striking out highlight and indicating that publications that are distributed to the general public may not feature or single out an elected board member by manner of display or his or her name or office in the layout, such as headlines, captions, type size, and so on. And so that just means, yes, in events and brochures and annual reports and things like that, we represent you as the board. Your names can go in, your photos can go in. But really, it's a matter of not singling out or individual promotion. So that added clarity.
Connie, the red is what we've added.
The red is what you've added, except in a few places where it's stricken through, and I know it's hard to read the strike-throughs. The strike-through is the lowercase r on line 18, the highlight on 19, and also toward the end after members, striking out that S.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone on the board wish to make any other changes to this policy procedure? Okay. Did I miss it? Did you go over claims against the district?
I didn't have any recommended changes from that I can recall.
No, there weren't, but does anyone on the board have any additions or corrections to 3810 claims against the district? We didn't at our committee meeting. All right. If there are no additions, then we will accept this as the first reading of our policies. We wish you Godspeed on your way home, okay? And take care of yourself. And we will now go back to item 4.1, reports and information items. So this would be the Modesto Junior College and Columbia College presentation, Strong Workforce Programs. Good evening, Brian. Probably.
Gentlemen?
There's so much stuff.
Yeah, I may fall down. I'm tired. So tonight's presentation is about the Strong Workforce Program, which I hope that you've heard some about. It's a statewide initiative that is really trying to change the landscape for CTE programs at our colleges up and down the state. $200 million was allocated across the state of California to be used in districts. Our local share of that was about $1.7 million. The goals of it are kind of simple. So just think of the big picture, $200 million with the goals of more CTE and better CTE. By more CTE, we mean more students completing their programs, more students in courses, more students getting jobs out or afterwards. And better CTE means higher quality, higher levels of certification, those kinds of things. So for our local share, how do you split up $1.7 million, amongst a bunch of people who would really like to have a share of that? So we developed a process across the district. Instead of just going on a proportional share by college, we worked collaboratively, the two colleges, the leadership and the faculty at both institutions. We developed criteria, we looked at those criteria, made sure that they made sense. We issued a process where people could submit proposals. We took those proposals in, we weighed those against the metric, and we came up with a a ranking, an allocation at the end of that. This was a first round. We did our best. We know that the process wasn't perfect. We know the process wasn't absolutely excellent. So we're going to be reviewing. We're going to come up with revisions to that. We're going to take that for the next round to make things even better. So what did we do with that? Well, we came up with, of the 17 proposals received, naturally you have $1.7 million, and so the proposals total $6.5 million. Proud to say that one of the proposals from my college would have used up about 95% of the entire budget for the district. But you know, even when that comes in, I think the merits of our process this time were that we could look at a project that was kind of overblown in the way it was proposed and find the merits of it that would, on a very short term, come up with more CTE and better CTE and fund that component of the program. That was done across 11 different programs overall. You can see some of them listed here, and my colleagues here in the faculty are going to present a couple of details on some of the ones in their programs. That would be Mr. Eric Endall with this Columbia College Automotive Program, and Mr. Troy Gravatt with the Sustainable Agriculture Program at Modesto. Other ones on the list, it is kind of a fine, small font there. You're going to see some changes to the fire science burn room. So some more flames going to come out the top of our tower over here, and you can see that from the freeway. There's an expansion of the AS degree in nursing program with some new equipment housed on-site at Columbia College, as well as expansion here. Irrigation technology and agriculture, expansion of the medical assisting program, also with a cohort at Columbia College to try to meet the needs of Columbia and the Sonora region. The business and office administration area here at Modesto Junior College is going to redesign their curriculum to improve efficiency and effectiveness. There's a joint program at Columbia in forestry, fire technology, and culinary arts. Mostly that's an equipment grant. And then CTE enhancement is an overall support for CTE programs in the community. Okay, and I hand it off to Mr. Andel.
Thank you. I'd like to take credit for all these pictures, but I didn't choose them, but I'm very glad about the pictures they did choose. This is an electric rock crawler, as a side note. Had nothing to do with this grant, but it had to do something with a previous grant that I received. And it just so happened about the same time I was awarded those funds, Eric Turner, who's the new welding teacher down here, was our program assistant, was a fabricator. And so if you don't know what that means, it means a person like that can take metal, straight metal, and build a frame like that. And so for us automotive folks who understand the physics of suspension, things like that, this is a really cool thing. And really the uniqueness is it's electric, alternative energy. Oh. That's how I was able to get the grant. So this is not quite the finished product. We have it painted already, and that's not totally updated. So one of the things that we plan to do with these funds, I guess we can, is to finish up that rock crawler. And as it shows on here, we're going to be able to expand what we do in training. Our program is nationally accredited with NATEF. That may not sound or look familiar, but the technicians who wear that famous ASE certification patch, this is a branch of ASE that certifies programs. And so, excuse me, this will help us with our accreditation efforts. We meet the requirements right now. We'll just be stronger when they come back. Smog check training. We are Bureau of Automotive Repair accredited smog check training school. There are some things that we cannot train in, but now we will be able to because of the dynamometer. And so that'll enhance our abilities quite a bit. The Occupational Olympics, I know you're familiar with because both Columbia College and MJC have a part to play in those. We're going to do a bunch of little activities with the high schools between the annual events to strengthen it. We want to encourage stronger school support, more participants, and so that's what that'll be used for. And although these aren't my programs, I happen to know enough to comment on this. The pickup you see in the top left, I don't know if that's the exact pickup, but part of these grants will pay for a pickup for the fire science program. And it will be used for a number of things. A couple that I know of it'll help me tow that rock crawler to high school events. The trailer in the bottom left, probably everybody has seen that. It's designed with advertisement for the college, and that can be towed to different events. And so this pickup can be used for those things. The bottom right represents one of the many pieces of equipment that fire science and forestry have long had a problem with, and that is storage. You know, we get fun toys and instructional items to deal with, but we don't have any place to put them sometimes. So the plan with part of their funds is they're going to build, I think we're calling it like a CTE division storage yard. So like a fence and then a shelter for the fire trucks. They don't have a place to shelter, and other equipment. And I think that was all that went in there. Yeah. And I think that's it. So.
Well, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you and tell you a little bit about our sustainable agriculture grant that we're working on. You know, one of the questions that we seem to run into in agriculture is, you know, where does it come from? And it seems like more and more it's not just the elementary school kids, it's students in high school, it's students that are in community college. And it's a question that we find we're being asked more and more is, where does it come from? You know, is it safe? Is it GMO safe? And so one of the things with the sustainable agriculture is it's a concern of people. You know, how do we do things more sustainably? And you ask people, you know, do you care where your food comes from? And, you know, if I asked you, probably most of you would raise your hand. Yes, you're concerned with where your food comes from and how safe your food is. And so I think part of the sustainable agriculture is getting our message out to students and bringing students into the program and giving them some opportunities to see how agriculture operates and be involved in it on a sustainable basis. So that's a little bit in terms of kind of, you know, I guess the background information and why we're looking this direction, and to kind of continue on. You know, 2 years ago, if you were to ask, you know, what was the world population going to be in 2050? It was 9.5 billion. Last year, if you ask people, it was 9.6 billion. And this year, as people are making the projections, it's about 9.7 billion. On the high end, close to 14 billion. On the low end, if catastrophe happens, it's going to be someplace around where it is now, about 7.8 billion. So we have more people today living in cities that want to do stuff. They want to be connected to agriculture. They want to know where it comes from. They want to know how it's grown. And so that's really kind of the background, is creating a connection. People are connected to their cell phones. They're looking to social media for all of those answers. And so we find ourselves trying to make that connection. Great little tour that I have pictures of here. This is actually Modesto City's water treatment facility. I don't know how many of you have had an opportunity to tour it. As I tell my students, it is poop water coming in the front side, and it is drinking water coming out the back side. And there's a stigma attached to that. And, you know, we
Really?
we kind of put ourselves above, you know, being able to drink that water. Right now, that water is currently dumped back in the San Joaquin River. It flows about 5 miles downstream. Tracy pumps that same water out, and that's their drinking water. But it's okay because it's been in the river. And so it's you know, when you start looking at the sustainability of things and what are we doing with water, that's millions of gallons of water that come out of the city of Modesto, and basically it's put back into the river when it could be used for irrigation purposes. And so, again, making that connection. My environmental science students love this tour. They don't love the smell of it, but they definitely love the tour and the information that they glean from it. So what are we going to do, and how are we going to reconnect students with agriculture? Because the old idea of cows and plows, that's what it is. And it's so much more in terms of off-the-grid power systems, hands-on research, giving students an opportunity. I've already put into effect, or got the wheels turning anyways, for an AS degree in environmental science, as well as we're working on some certificates to go along with it. You see a picture of a community garden. It's much more than a community garden. It's a research area. It's an opportunity for students to see how things grow, how we can do it on a sustainable basis. And so we've got an area over on East Campus where we're going to put in something very similar to the picture in the bottom there. But it's also going to have about a 15,000 gallon water capacity in terms of capturing rainwater, which the amount of rain that we've had already, I would have already filled those tanks. And it would have been more than enough water to sustain our garden, and the solar system will power the pump system to irrigate that entire area. So again, making those kinds of connections and letting students see those opportunities. We're going to have some a bee habitat in there, some California native plants, and that's what students are going to see. That's what you're going to see when you come in there to see how we've used this. And then what you will hopefully see are students coming out of there with a degree, an AS degree, and certificates in environmental science. They're already transferring to Humboldt State, but they're doing it without an environmental science AS degree. And so adding those and adding some additional classes.
So we are going to get some additional funding this year, and we'll go through the same cycle again. Again, we're going to work on some improvements in the cycle and the process itself. So at this point, do you have any questions for myself or for the faculty members?
I have one minor one. Troy, where on the East Campus will this garden be?
If you've been over to the nursery for any of our plant sales, we have an area back behind there where we've used it occasionally for growing some row crops and growing some other things, some grain crops, kind of test plots, and so it'll be in that particular area. You can see it from the baseball field at the parking lot between the baseball field and the ag park.
Okay,
That was a very nice presentation. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
that's great. And thanks for coming down, Eric from Columbia. Appreciate that, and Brian too. All right. At this time, we will move to accreditation updates, and I do not know who's going first. Well, Brian, welcome back.
I wrote out some notes, so I'd be sure to hit the highlights. So good evening again. Thank you for your interest in accreditation. As today, as I was writing some of the accreditation self-study, and I was really writing about the role of the Board of Trustees and writing and kind of reflecting on the truth in how much the board here and how much each of you really attends to the issues of accreditation. You care about it. You hold us accountable to what we're doing, and I just deeply appreciate that, so thank you. The Columbia College team has been deeply engrossed in the writing process over the past month. Our faculty accreditation co-chair, Dr. Nate Reen, has been aggressively gathering sections from the various different authors and bringing those together. Our VP of College Administrative Services, Trevor Stewart, who you see behind me, has been working really hard on Standard 3 and taking really the input from many of the district folks that you see here in the room who provided those things to us and kind of refining them and putting them in the Columbia College voice. We now have really all of the primary district components, and wanted to really just say thank you for that. The authors of Standard 1 and 4 are also hard at work. I haven't yet been able to get those into the draft yet. Those are the ones that are going to come next. Today we released what we're calling version 0.5 of the draft of our document. It was sent out on an email just an hour or so ago. And in that 0.5, it's roughly half of the text, but sometimes you do a rough draft that's very rough. Our intention is to provide a rough draft that's really the final text that you then refine and work from, and it doesn't have the glaring holes, and really sometimes when you put out something that's really rough, it tends to distract us from the purpose. And so we're putting out hopefully clean information, and we're going to gather information on that over the next period of time. We have our forum coming up on February 24th, and we want to invite you to join us at that forum. We do intend to release the full draft next Wednesday if we can manage to get it all together by that point. And if not, it'll be a long holiday weekend, and it'll be ready to go on Tuesday morning when the rest of the team returns back from the holiday. So that's our plans. Do you have any questions at this time?
The purpose of the forum is?
It's an open forum on accreditation. It's a first of all, it's a required component of the accreditation process that you host these forums. Members of the community, whether that's college community or the community at large, are welcome to attend. We update them on our process and what we've gone through and where that we stand currently, and then we take any feedback, comments, critiques that come in at that point, and we incorporate their feedback into the report. No, that's just a Columbia College.
Columbia. All right.
Well, great, thank you very much. Do you have anything else on the agenda for later, or shall I say? Thank you, Brian.
Good evening. So we are busy as well at MJC in the writing process. We've had a few other things that have happened. We've submitted a substantive change report follow-up on our respiratory care baccalaureate. They've been asking us how we are going to onboard some of our programs that were on grant funding onto our general fund for faculty. That includes our irrigation degrees and certificates and our logistics program. So we have written that and submitted it. Also, we are in the middle of a brief follow-up report on our, I'm sorry. That was what our brief follow-up report is on. The respiratory care baccalaureate has been submitted already. We had approval from the Chancellor's office on the upper division courses, and so we had to give them a report as well. So we've had two. Sorry if that was a little bit confusing on there. My notes got a little bit messed up. Our accreditation council has met over as a group. We've had tri-chairs on each one of our standards. So that includes faculty, staff, and an administrator on each one of the 4 standards. We met this last week, and we're going to meet, or 2 weeks ago, and we're going to meet tomorrow. We have gone through, each one of those groups has their own standard that are reading and providing feedback on in terms of what might be missing in terms of evidence and how we can increase some of our narrative structure. Nancy Sill, who is our faculty accreditation chair, has been meeting with groups across the campus and getting input from them. As a matter of fact, she was with our instruction council this last week, and we were reviewing Standard 2A, and she's also in communication with the Academic Senate. They have that on their agenda as well in terms of reading through things in chunks. I will say that it's a great opportunity for us. As I've gone through kind of line by line in our accreditation report, what's great about it is it's a place where we can talk more and lay out what we've actually accomplished as an institution. And it's nice to go back over the last 5 to 6 years and think about what's changed. I think one of the things that's really apparent is we've become a lot better as an institution in terms of looking at our data and doing things with our data. The completion rates that we have, the degree and certificate rates that we have, how students are moving through the institution and trying to make opportunities for us to improve as an institution in terms of student outcomes. We also have some opportunities, I think, where we can improve, and that's what really this process is about, is writing through, figuring out how you can become better as an institution. So that's been actually invigorating for me. Our idea in terms of a timeline, right now we have all of our standard drafts up that faculty can look at, staff can look at, administrators can look at and provide feedback. It's a large process, right, of trying to figure out where do we have pockets of evidence that show that we're doing these things that can be attached to these standard narratives, and then also getting them into a place where it's easily read will take us some time. But over March is the same time we'll be doing the same things that Brian was talking about in terms of large-scale forums. So we talked with Nancy about having standard narrative days where everyone can come to look at the full draft of the standard narratives. So we look good in terms of a timeline. I think over the summer we'll be compiling a lot more of the evidence and making it into a nice shiny document, but I am absolutely confident that we'll have it together by the end of the semester and also through our shared governance process.
Are there any
questions?
Okay, James, thank you very, very much. We appreciate that. At this point, we will move to 4.3, our association reports. And we'd like to start with the Student Senate activity reports. Is there someone here from MJC or Columbia College? Ah, welcome. Don't be nervous.
I'm a little nervous, but okay. Good evening, honorable trustees. My name is Cindy Lopez, and I am the senator of ASMGC, and I will be giving tonight's reports. ASMGC has had an amazing, inspiring retreat this past December, led by our campus life staff, where we learned a great deal of leadership and teamwork. We are currently holding up nominations for ASMGC next year. Our bylaws require a 2-week nomination period. In the past, this has not been publicized much. By our bylaws, a 2-week nomination period, this week we have opened up nominations on January 9th and will be closing on February 28th. This is an almost 2-month nomination. Additionally, we have marked nominations with over 60 large posters on both campuses, and we have given out over 3,000 flyers, and it has been posted on our MJC webpage and all over our social media. We want to be fully transparent and give every MJC student a chance to participate. In January, we held our Club Rush, and that was attended by over 20 clubs and over 500 students. We also have had Pirates Promotion Day, a day to celebrate school spirit and highlight what students like about MJC. I have provided a sample of some of the student responses. We have had over 400 students attend this event. We have also had 3 of our Flow free lunch on Wednesday events this semester and have fed over 1,500 students throughout this event. Over the past weekend, 18 of our 21 members of ASMJC were in attendance at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. event here at MJC this past Saturday night, where ASMJC was one of the major co-sponsors. I have also provided you with flyers of our future events that are occurring. And lastly, ASMJC will be hosting the CCC Region V meeting on February 24th. You guys have any questions?
I saw that the pizza free food was the most popular of the club rush.
The students love it. Okay, thank you.
Cindy, thank you very much. It was very informative, and we appreciate your coming.
Thank you so much.
Do we have someone from Columbia or Siegfried?
Martini, Aaron was not able to make it tonight as he has a test tomorrow, as do I, as a matter of fact. But he did give me a report, and I'll provide it now. So he wrote to me the following: ASCC has so far planned out the following events. On February 9th, there will be a cookie coloring event. On February 15th and March 1st, there are plans to put the food bank on the road, which will consist of ASCC having a table with information about our food bank and the forms students need to fill out to come to the food bank. On March 14th, they will hold a Pi Day event and tentatively a youth leadership conference on the 24th. They will also be hosting a March Madness night at the Student Center, and in April, we'll be holding at least 2 open forums to talk about potential fees, such as the $2 student representation fee and the raising of the health fee to $1. ASCC elections will begin April 17th. Oh no, they will take place April 17th through the 20th, concluding after cram night on the 20th. And then he wrote, we will also be holding cram night and the end of the semester barbecue on the 20th of April. The following week, ASCC will be assisting with graduation and the ceremony. After the long semester, ASCC will have a week off to be followed up with General Assembly, and that will take place May 5th through 7th. And his personal note was, "I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the board meeting tonight and hope everyone has safe travels home."
Thank you for reading that.
Siegfried, did you say cookie coloring contest?
That's what it looks like, and if I'm quite honest, there were certain things that were a little bit difficult to put into context the right way because I think he wrote it in haste. But so
I just never.
that's what it sounded like, a cookie coloring event. That's all I know.
Tell them the board would like to hear the results of that contest.
Bring the winner to the board meeting.
Right. Thank you. At this time, we'll move to CSEA. Debbie, are you going to give the report? Good.
Good evening, board. Happy to see all you tonight. Classified staff have been very busy serving students, which is our mission. On Saturday, January 28th, the entire executive board attended an officer's skill training in Merced. It's provided annually by the CSEA Association, so the new officers can learn their new jobs. And I was able to have a nice meeting with Trustee Garrett and had a great conversation on his vision for the district and a walk down memory lane, as both of us are longtime Modesto residents, and we got off on to remember when and remember that. Did you ever do this? Thank you, Darren. I appreciate your time and commitment to the YCCD. I am looking to this board to help develop a culture of inclusiveness at YCCD. Oftentimes, decisions are made by management behind closed doors that actually affect the lives of our classified. And I'd like to ask that classified are at the table when the discussions begin, whether or not whatever idea is coming up comes to fruition or not. The people who are involved should be at the table from the get-go. As an example, we do have a Title V grant, which is removing barriers for students, which is awesome. However, part of that includes staying open later in the evening. So when you're not in the meeting, but you hear rumors coming out, you don't know if you're gonna have to change your life. You don't know if you're gonna have to make other childcare arrangements because you're now gonna be forced to work one night a week, 2 nights a week. Who knows? Because all we're hearing is rumors. But if classified were at the table at the time these discussions were going on and could give input, we were very bright and problem-solving and student-centered, and we could probably come up with a win-win for everyone. So I'm hoping that we can get that inclusiveness and have our voice heard, since we're the ones who are going to be affected by any change of schedule. So, and I do have a meeting with Leslie next week. I look forward to seeing you. That's my report.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
At this time, Michelle, faculty representative to the board.
Good evening, everyone. I have just a very short report tonight. First, I'd like to say that I had a good meeting with Trustee Rodriguez, and I was able to attend the office hour of Trustee Beggs, and I also attended the board study session in January, and I appreciated those opportunities for open discussion. I thought they were really good. The other thing is I have been, in the past few meetings, making requests to you for various things. I asked for the inclusion of the constituent groups into the minutes. I asked at a recent meeting for more attention to faculty presentations, and those requests have been granted largely, I think, and I'm very pleased with that. And I wanted to formally thank the board for your openness. Do you have any questions for me tonight? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. At this time, we're going to do the Academic Senate activity reports, and I want Curtis to go first so I don't forget him.
We already agreed she was going to go first.
Good evening, members of the board. Today I want to talk about something actually I've been doing for many years, which is online teaching. I don't want to talk about myself. I want to talk about online teaching. I've been doing it almost for 16 years, and online teaching has come, distance education really, has come a long, long, long way since I started. When I started, students still had connections of 56, 28K, what is it, 28? Huh? Yeah, modems, they had to call in, and now we have these super fast connections. So the nature of online teaching has changed dramatically. Many of the problems initially with online teaching have been solved by technology. And the reason I want to talk about online education at MJC is because our institution, believe it or not, is one of the early adopters. We've been doing it since the 1990s. Currently, we offer around 257 online courses and about 96 hybrids. The state doesn't differentiate between those. So over 300 online-based courses. That's about, and Jill can correct me, it comes close to 20% of our FTSs at the institution. So it's an important component. And over the years, there's been concerns over online education. There's early adopters, and then there's resistors. And there are concerns. How do you deliver education online? How do you guarantee that the person taking an exam behind the screen is the person that is there? How do you motivate students without a professor there? And I want to tell you that technology has helped us in a lot of that. Today, we don't have it yet, but we may get something similar. A student can sit behind a screen and literally the camera can map read their faces and make sure that the student who's there is the one that is supposed to be there. And we have things like Turnitin.com, which all students know that will pick up on your plagiarism if you attempt to copy other people, including yourself, and that happens very often. They use pieces of papers for other papers, so that it shows up as being copied, but they're copying from themselves. And we have around 257 online sections and 96 hybrids. And what I wanted to talk really is a call out to the Distance Education Committee led by Mike Smetshammer. I was chosen as one of the initiators of the state's online educational initiative. My course, along with 3 other MJC faculty, were selected. And the selection process, this was a competition at the state level, was a very, very competitive. We competed against another 112 colleges, only a few were selected, courses were selected. And it's when I realized that the level of training that had been provided to me at MJC, specifically by the ED committee, specifically by Mike Smetshammer, had been at a very, very high level. And I want to say that because online teaching, believe it or not, is more difficult. Unlike live teaching, where you go in and you punch the clock, you leave, you have office hours, online teaching is sort of 24/7. Students expect you to be there pretty much around the clock, so you have to establish regular patterns. And 2 years ago, there was a lot of concern across the state at MOOCs. Anyone know what MOOCs are?
Yeah.
Massive open online courses. In other words, we didn't need schools. We didn't need walls anymore. You could just sit at home and take a MOOC from a professor at Harvard or from Stanford or from Berkeley. I'm not sure you've seen that term used very often in the last year. I'm not sure why, but I suspect that the limitations are obvious. Just the massive open would be scary for an educator, where we tend to focus on the individual, on the student. And that's what we have learned at MJC. The course that no MJC faculty can teach without going through a 3-month training. It's 3 courses: an introduction to online education, an introduction to Canvas, and an introduction to advanced Canvas. And I'll tell you that these are not courses to just learn how to do Canvas. It is the first course outside of graduate school in which I have felt extremely challenged. I didn't do Canvas with Mike, I did Blackboard, but I do have a certificate from an organization called At One, It's what qualified me to teach on Canvas, and it was a very good course. But frankly, it pales by comparison, because this was a course about the mechanics of Canvas. Just you press here, this is how you post, this is what you do. The training that we offer at MJC, each of the courses is 1 month long. And the first one, which is Introduction to Online Education, and the one that I like most is really about the pedagogy. And it was a difficult course. And for the first time, all these initiatives that we're doing, the triple SP, the equity, how to get students through, these online courses became the forum where faculty could actually discuss in a meaningful way, in large discussion postings, how you went about that, how you implement it. So for me, not only has it taught me how to teach online, it has literally shaped the way in which I teach live, okay? And I can say I went to the OEI conference, I've been at the lead of it, and I can say that the best training that I've ever gone to has been at our own institution, and we need to recognize that. So my applause to Mike Smetshammer and the DE committee, which is the one that leads all these initiatives. On another front, the Academic Senate very much is like trying to read and provide feedback on accreditation. We have posted it in our agenda twice. We're asking people to provide feedback directly to us. I asked the Senate and they said they were okay if we separated a specific day so that only accreditation, we would only look at accreditation. It's not my idea, actually, the YFA is doing it, so I stole the idea from them. But to dedicate just a day for accreditation. The other thing that we're very, very excited about at MJC is that we have a draft of the EMP. I mentioned that last time, of our educational master plan. And I'm excited about it because for a long time, we haven't had a map of what we're doing in the medium range, long range of their institution. We have all these things floating around. But when you look at our EMP, you're just going to see that at least until 2021, 2022? 22? Until 2022, we've sort of mapped out and linked our strategic initiatives to the lowest level of what we do at an institution, and all of them are geared towards making students more successful, finishing on time, and all the good things that come along with the things that have been mentioned here. You saw one of the presentations. And finally, we had a short discussion. We invited President Stearns to the Academic Senate to discuss pathways. And the Academic Senate consented to send out for the application for pathways. And we're looking forward to see if we make the cut and then how we start moving and shaping pathways over the next 2 to 4 years at the institution. If you have any questions, that's my report.
I have one question. What's the name of your online class? Or what's the topic?
My online class, I teach History California, I teach History of Mexico, and I teach U.S. History 1 and 2. 1 and 2, it's not 1 and 2, 101 and 102. So.
Well, great. Anybody else? Thank you, Curtis. Okay, Wendy?
Is anybody interested in taking an online class? Because I teach about fake news. Last month, I had the opportunity to speak to you about our curriculum committee. And next month, you're in Columbia. And so I would like to introduce you at that time to the people and the work involved in our SLOs, the student learning objectives, outcomes, sorry. But I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about the collaboration between academic senates and what they offer you. Sometimes when I'm out in the world with people who are not involved in academia, they say, so what do you do at Columbia College? I say, well, I'm the Senate president, 80% time. And they said, so what does that mean? What do you do? And I thought, well, that's a fair question. So actually, I borrowed from Curtis to give to you. very familiar with it. Lynn, definitely familiar with it. But here are the rules that govern what your faculty senates are about. So this has been nicely laminated to Curtis, so that you can have it.
Thank you.
And it just goes to show, you guys are all set. They know exactly. Would you like one?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Is that mic on? This is called 10+1, and it's, okay. So just a few items of how your senates collaborate and work together. We're obviously very involved in our own campus, our own colleges, and the work that needs to happen there. But on January 13th, it was a Friday, Senate Council from Columbia College, and we had a math and an English teacher with us, met in Oakdale with our cohorts from Modesto. And the purpose of that meeting was to talk about how we could make life easier for our students in regards to registration, course identification, and what am I missing? I just looked at your smiling faces and just went right out my head. And so we've started that process of a conversation about how we best deal with those issues. And that's a big deal. They have that conversation. Yesterday, Curtis and I were working with Catherine Pritchard from HR for several hours on the faculty hiring procedures. Now, this is work that we have been doing for 2 years. But we're finally at that point where we are agreeing and massaging that document. Much of our work is individual, but we do a lot of collaborative stuff, so I just wanted to share that with you. I look forward to seeing you next month. Any questions for me?
Yes. Someone at the conference in Sacramento said that some people refer to this as the unholy 11.
Yes.
Why?
I don't know. 10+1?
See the source, CCLC, wasn't it?
No.
Just
Was
kidding.
it the presenters that said that?
Somebody at the conference said that.
It was probably somebody who didn't know anything.
But it was it the CCLC?
They don't say that.
No,
CCLC was instrumental in
Exactly.
passing 1725.
Um,
They were one of the organizations that actually helped pass and supported 1725, which is the one that
Right.
established the collegial
Uninformed person.
no,
You're asking if it was a presenter who said that? Yeah.
Jokingly.
she was, yeah, it was jokingly. She's the state president of the Academic Senate,
Julie?
Julie,
Bruno.
okay. And so she was showing their 10+1, and I learned from her, because I've gotten this form before, that not all colleges have the same ones on each side because they're different. And she was joking. I can see that stuck in your mind there, but
You were very impressed, I see.
sometimes it's difficult sometimes to reach agreement.
I didn't know if it was a joke or what it was. I just wanted to know.
I got that it was a joke.
Yeah.
Yes, she is our fearless leader with this. Anything else?
Thank you so much, Wendy. And now, last but not least, the Leadership Team Advisory Council, LTAC. Do we have a representative with a report? Okay. Oh, pardon me. Oh, I have to turn over the next page, I guess. Jim, come on up. Yes, there you are. I was on the wrong page.
So I want to start off with last Friday, I think it was, I had a meeting with Dr. Fairchild, and I've been trying to have monthly meetings with the college presidents, and it's been kind of wild to get things going with Angela, but we had a really good conversation, and I was a bit remiss because I have kind of this little thing that I do with President Stearns is I bring canned goods. See, I do canning at home, and so I bring gifts, and so I've done some pears and some applesauce, and it's so as it turns out, my family and friends have eaten everything, so I owe Dr. Fairchild some And I promise that the next one coming up is going to be applesauce. So, but we had a really good discussion, and I just kind of like having the dialogue and seeing if there's anything that we can do on our end to kind of coordinate things. And so it was a really, really good discussion. As Curtis mentioned, YFA has scheduled, at our last rep council meeting, we scheduled that our upcoming meeting next Wednesday will be directed just for or primarily working on the accreditation draft. So we made assignments to the district rep council members, and part of the agreement was not only did they have to sign up for particular sections, but they had to go back to their divisions and find faculty in their divisions to read it with them, to bring that those comments forward. And then Brian Green from the library is getting some laptops together for next Wednesday. We're going to sit around tables. We're going to edit and get comments together. So I think we will provide a number of eyes on the document, and then Senate's doing the same. So I think we're going to have a lot of faculty input on this. We're also working on reviewing the shared governance documents. In the faculty contract several years ago, there was an addition of what's called the shared governance documents that each division does to talk about a variety of things about how they run things in their division. And it was, at the time that it was done, it seemed kind of a, well, here's a check mark, we'll just make sure that we have it. I'm not sure how well they were really vetted. And so in discussions, actually I kind of got the idea from President Stearns in our conversation. We've had some conversations about scheduling issues. And one of the things that we discovered is that, well, the contract kind of talks about one thing and how scheduling is done, and then the shared governance documents sometimes, contradict that. And so I thought, it's probably a good time. It actually says in our contract we're supposed to review it periodically. So I asked all of the reps, bring me your shared governance documents. We're going through it, and we're going to clean out things that actually shouldn't even be in there because the contract is supposed to speak to that. Things like hiring practices, scheduling. There's some things that really are just contract related, and so, but there are other things that the divisions certainly can do by themselves. So we're going through those documents right now. The other thing that we are in the process of reviewing is our bylaws. We haven't, it's kind of every few years we're due to update our bylaws, and so we have a committee that's been looking at that, and I asked for an April 1st deadline so that we can get it out to the faculty for a vote, and surprisingly we're kind of ahead of schedule right now, so it looks like we're going to be able to do that. And then finally, just kind of a thank you to Trustee Beggs for having your office hours. It sounded like it was a pretty good start. So I'll make the announcement at Rep Council, and thank you very much. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
Okay. At this point, we'll move to 4.4, activities and announcements. We'll start with Columbia College. Angie?
Good evening. I have a brief report tonight. Last week, on Friday, we had a tea party at Columbia College. It was a fundraiser for the Child Development Center, and I want to thank Trustee Rodriguez from driving up the hill, and also Dr. Harmon. They came together and joined me, and we sat there with our little china cups, and being a Brit, it was just a wonderful event. High quality tea, really good baked goods, and finger sandwiches, so including cucumber sandwiches. So I was very impressed. And Dr. Harmon and I got in a bidding war, and I found out last night that I won. So, so I have to take my checkbook to work with me tomorrow. But we had a really good turnout. The Child Development Center was full of both campus community members and local community members, and faculty member Adrienne Seegers played the violin for us, and so it was really nice to have music in the background. She's very talented in multiple ways, but as a violinist certainly. So thank you for coming up. And Lynn, I know that you couldn't be there because you were traveling, so your big motorhome. But we're giving you forewarning, though, of March 10th. We're having, and you heard earlier, Eric spoke to it, Occupational Olympics. And so I know that some of you are coming up the hill for that. We get a big turnout from our high schools, and everyone gets excited about the CTE programs and the competitions that the students have to show their skills and their critical thinking. So please join us for that. It's pretty much an all-day event, and I think that the weather's probably going to be good by then. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's move to Modesto Junior College activities and announcements. Jill?
Thank you, Chair DeMartini, trustees. I would like to just highlight a couple of the many, many activities on our list. We are in the full swing of spring semester. So there are lots of options if you have any free time in which you can participate in activities on campus. But I do want to recognize that Nita Gopal was recognized with the Cardoza Award on Institute Day for her work, not only in the classroom, but also for her leadership with our outcomes assessment work group. And so that was just a wonderful recognition of the leadership she has provided in that area. And she is such a warm and encouraging individual. She is just a joy to spend time with. If you haven't had that opportunity, I would encourage you to reach out to her. As our student representative mentioned, Cindy, the turnout of ASMJC Saturday night at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. event was really impressive. And when I saw the number of seats that were reserved for ASMJC, I thought, wow, they're really thinking they're going to have a crowd. And it was full, and the house was full, and there were lots of familiar faces from across campus there. And it was just a tremendous event to hear Ambassador Young. It was fabulous. And finally, one event that did not make our list of activities, this Friday evening, we're hosting Coaches versus Cancer, and we are part of the national collaboration between the American Cancer Society and the National Association of Basketball Coaches that holds these events annually and donates the gate to the fight against cancer. And so it's really something that has taken off recently, and Nick wanted to make sure I extended the invitation. So thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Let's turn now to Dr. Jane Harmon's, her updates.
All right. Well, first of all, I have attended a couple of events, the fundraising tea at Columbia, and it was absolutely delightful. I can remember my grandmother having coffee parties with all of the china and the sandwiches and the wonderful delicacies. The students made hats out of net and tulle. It was just truly lovely. And I should have won something because I did bid on many things. So I've got to check into this, see if it's... And also I went to a speech night at MJC, and I can't remember the two coaches' names. Yeah, amazing. And these were students that I don't think any of them were in speech during high school. They had been in speech for maybe a semester or two, and it was truly amazing what they did. Every time I think about the value we add to students' lives, it reinforces what we do. It really does. And I also got to spend some time with the Academic Senate, which I enjoyed. And I also am going to be setting up regular meetings with the YFA and CSEA. I think that's really important that we get together at least once a month, so we'll be doing that. I also want to talk to you about the Classified Employee of the Year Award, and I'm just going to read what we have because I don't want to leave anything out. It recognizes outstanding classified staff who demonstrate the highest level of commitment by professionalism throughout the California Community College system. Recipients are nominated by members of their college or district community and endorsed by their local Board of Trustees. Award recipients are selected by representatives of the Board of Governors for California Community Colleges, the State Chancellor's Office, and the Foundation for California Community Colleges, and must have a record of active participation on campus and beyond. YCCD nominations will be forwarded to the YCCD Chancellor. One YCCD classified staff member will be selected by YCCD trustees to be submitted to the Board of Governors and the Foundation for California Community Colleges, who will honor up to 6 recipients. And so I really hope that we have some candidates that come forward, because I've heard about some of the wonderful work of our classified staff. So I look forward to recognizing that. Thank you.
And Debbie, I know we've won it at least once. Have we won it twice, the classified? I thought twice. 3 times? Anyway, we're outstanding since they don't pick that many, and we have 72 districts, so 3 times, that's wonderful. Just wanted to share that with you, Jane.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to 4.7, the grant activity update.
Thank you very much, Chair DeMartini, Board of Trustees. The board at 2 meetings ago asked that we begin presenting on a monthly basis grants that have been funded and grants that have been submitted. So this is our first attempt to share this information with you folks, and we are open to any comments, changes. Again, it is the first time you're seeing a format like this, but what we were showing are the Columbia College funded grants, and also we talked about, we will present this on a monthly basis, but what we did is we went back to the beginning of the fiscal year for this first report. So you can see the grants that were funded for Columbia College during that time period, the grants that were funded for Modesto Junior College, and the district office participates in a grant program called the Registry. That's an annual grant, so you'll see a line item. You won't see a whole lot of grants entitled YCCD. You'll generally see them for MJC and Columbia. And then the bottom of the schedule simply shows the grants that have been submitted for approval and funding during this period. And so as we move through the fiscal year or years, some of these are multi-year grants, we will present that information. So again, please take a look at this. If it's not what you intended or you would like more or less, please let us know. Our grant unit at the district office works with both colleges, and we did ask that both colleges be, we'll send this information out to them and be prepared if there are any very specific questions regarding the submittals and the funding.
Teresa, would you kindly give us a brief explanation of what the registry does?
Sure. This is a statewide grant, as I mentioned. We serve as, using the term, fiscal agent for this grant. And the registry is, was established to go out across the state and to inform the colleges and the districts of positions that are open statewide. So our team that is funded through this grant will go several times a year to what we call job fairs, and they'll really orchestrate various job positions that are open statewide. So again, it's a statewide function, and we have 2 people in this particular office. I think we've had this program over 10 or 12 years. I hope I'm not mistaken there. But basically, we are compiling and assisting colleges in understanding what positions may or may not be open. It's not only in person. We go to these job fairs, but it's also, we have an online system where we collect information regarding job openings.
Okay, thank you. I wanted our new trustees to understand when they see a purchase order for, $20,000 at the Hilton Hotel, it was actually
Thank you.
is part of our grant there.
It's a job fair.
I really appreciate you sharing this. It is the understanding, I have the understanding that this will not be something that we see every month, but
We will compile a report every month if we have activity.
right. And if there's
So I
not,
will report, if we don't have, well, you'll know we don't have it.
right. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm very pleased with what we have. Does anyone want it done differently or anything, or is this fine? Okay, this is great.
And may I just add one thing?
Sure.
I think we talked about this a little bit a couple of months ago. But just the fact that these funded and submitted get to this report, I want the new board members especially to understand there are processes in place at both colleges whereby a staff member will identify a grant to go after. But that staff person then goes through their dean and through ultimately the vice presidents, college president, to make sure it fits in with the missions and the strategic planning of the colleges. So we do have this process in place that folks aren't just saying, oh, that looks like a great grant, but then it doesn't tie to anything we're doing. So I wanted just to reiterate that for our group.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, this time we'll move to 4.8, our bond update, and invite Matt Kennedy to come up.
Good evening. I'm Matt Kennedy with Kitchell, and I'm going to give you an update on Measure E bond program's current activities. Okay, so moving up to Columbia first, we have the Lower Manzanita building renovation project. That's the culinary arts program improvement to the lower part of the Manzanita building. It's a $3.3 million project, and it will be done in time for the fall semester, and it's moving along quite well right now. Here are some photographs. They were taken a little while ago, but you can see that we had originally the whole floor came out because of all the plumbing that needed to be added. That's all been poured back in, all of what we call top out, which is everything that comes out of the ground, all the utilities, mechanical, overheads being done, the walls are framed, and so it's moving along very well. The other building project at Columbia College is the Pinion Building, and it's a student service, student health is the program. It's a small project, $330,000 project, and it's going to be done here in the spring. And you can see the progress on that project. It's getting ready to drop the ceiling in and getting close to furnishings. So we'll have that done this spring. Another project, now this is one that's a new project that we're working on. It's a bid. Project construction started February 6th. And what it is it's the data fiber backbone for the campus. So we're improving it. And there's a number of buildings that it connects, which is very hard to read.
Yes, it is, but if I could read it, I still wouldn't understand it, so.
If you can't read
Yeah.
it.
Complete
Redo, but it's that fiber backbone improvement project. Okay, at Modesto Junior College, the roadways. This is all of the yellow, all of the roads and parking currently are open right now, and we did resequence a bit. Now, what we're going to do is leave this. This is the current state, so we can loop around the campus. Part of it's temporary roads. We had through the last report we were going to tear up and do the Brink Avenue entrance. And what's transpired since the last report was with all the rains, we pushed that out a bit because once we tear up the roads, they're going to fill full of water and it's going to be a mess. So what we're going to do is maintain this circulation until the end of the spring semester. At the end of the spring, this is bid, and we're actually going to do some underground utility work around the area, but not affect the circulation until the end of the semester. At the end of the semester, we will be tearing up that red area there. And part of that kind of temporary or overflow parking area box in red will be not accessible. We do have a temporary bypass around it, but this is the part that's changed, and we pushed it to May. So we push it completely out of the semester, and so in May, that area gets torn up, we'll be out of the rain, we'll be able to actually get it done quicker by waiting to May to do the demolition. So the next phase on the roads, which was also going to start in May, we're going to take advantage of that summertime, dry weather, and very low student population. And we're going to do the parking lot, which we call the Phase 3 parking, which is the area where the old central services buildings are located. So in May and during the summer and they'll be done by the end of August, we'll have those two projects complete. So in preparation for that project, we have two big tasks. One is to get all the furniture out of the building, of the old central services buildings, and then the second is to abate any kind of hazardous material before demolition. So the furniture removal has been done is like a two-step process, because what we've done is we've allowed the colleges to go through and pick and label, and all of the furniture that was desirable for either Columbia College or MJC was delivered to them. So we got all of the furniture out that was useful for someone. We are now, the remainder of the furniture that's in it is going to go to auction. And then we start our hazmat project. That project we want to start in April, so we can clean up the building, so in May, we can start the demolition. So that's kind of...
I got a question, Matt. Who's the contractor at Columbia?
Oh, I don't have that. I'm sorry. Simile, you're right. Simile Construction. Local contractor.
Is he doing all the projects, or you have different contractors on different projects?
The Simile's doing Pinion and Manzanita. The fiber project is a different contractor.
Oh, okay.
Are there other questions?
Anyone else with any other questions?
I have a question. I believe it's Student Center Drive is the name of it. When I was on it last week, I discovered a new set of stop signs. At the time I was there, I didn't understand the reason for adding them. So, explain.
Yeah, those are just temporary. They are temporary.
Oh.
That is not the finished product that will happen there. That is just, that's part of the temporary road that's just for the spring. And so they will be removed when we do that Brink Avenue connection.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, what goes at that location, the location where you have that T intersection and the three-way stop, there's a big roundabout that goes there.
Oh, okay.
So then we have we have two other roundabouts that are completed right now that are so where we have an intersection where three roads kind of come together. We've done it in the roundabout, so there's no stop signs.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So just temporary.
Okay. Anyone else have a question? Thank you.
Clarification, if you wouldn't mind. Could you go back to slide 9 of 12? I don't know if this is just something I missed.
Which slide?
May through August. So one
Said
more.
9 of
one after
12.
this. Oh, one after the one you were at. That's the one. So I see there's an arm on that on the red portion, one that kind of
Goes to 90
sticks out to an angle. Yeah, to where there isn't a road there, and I know there isn't an entrance anyway there. What purpose does that serve?
Okay, that's an important part of this, the Brink Avenue connection. That will be the new connection to Brink Avenue. What's there currently right now is right there, Student Center Drive. It kind of it comes with Brink Avenue and the
Correct.
Campus Way, and
Yes.
it makes a real acute corner that has. It's actually a very dangerous corner that happens there.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So what we're doing is creating a new. We're abandoning that and demolishing that part in this the Brink Avenue connector, and bringing that so that arm that you see is a new road that will connect at a 90-degree angle, so people can make a left turn in and a right turn out.
It's very
So
good.
It's done for safety.
I like that. Thanks.
It'll be much better. It'll be much safer connection. I do that one every morning, and it's like it's this cars all over the place sometimes. Okay, so that concludes my presentation. Also in your packet, there's a complete list of the bond projects, their budgets, schedules, and also a quarterly expenditure report. So that's all in your packet. If there's any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer them, but that concludes my presentation.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Matt. We appreciate that. At this time, we will move to the consent agenda. Is there a need to pull any parts of the consent agenda? Like 5.14?
Is there any additions or corrections? Okay, so before I move to accept that, I'd like to do what we normally do here is our retirement individual, James T. Johnson, 37 years of service as a professor of mathematics. Kimberly Kennard, 15 and a half years as a professor of human services. And Arabella Soha, 24 years of service as the bookstore manager. So with that, I'll move that we accept the consent calendar as presented.
Abe, just one moment.
So I'm going to recuse myself and pull 5.14 out.
Okay, so, no, you're going to stay by the door.
I'm going to stay by the door.
You're going to leave and then, because.
So we'll take 5.2.
Let's begin with 5.14 and then we can bring her back in. Okay, but I'd accept your motion to.
Second?
All right, so Abe, you've moved that we adopt 5.14. Do I hear a second? Wake up, guys, come on.
Second.
Thank you, Darren. I'm going to start bringing you like little treats for people who make the motions. To do that. All those in favor of approving consent agenda 5.14, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Okay, the motion has carried. Please ask Leslie to come back. And yeah, Jane did that for us. Thank you. All right, now a motion would be in order to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
5.1 to 5.14 less 5.4.
That's 5.14. Or we can, okay. We have a motion by Abe Rojas to accept the rest of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John.
I just want to make one before we approve this. Jill, I want to thank you and your staff and the Modesto Junior College for 5.11, the Guided Pathways Project. So thank you very much.
Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed on getting that approved at the statewide level. All those in favor of accepting the rest of the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion has carried. At this time, we've already covered the board policy, and also at this time, we hope Connie's made it home. So we will move to, as soon as I find it,
7.1.
6.3.
6.3, the quarterly report on the district's financial condition. Okay, Teresa, thank you.
Very much. Do you all have that in front of you on your laptops? Good. Quarterly, we report to the Board of Trustees and then on to the State Chancellor's Office the activities for that particular quarter as compared to our annual budgets, both revenues and expenditures. What we're reporting here is just one of the funds of the district. And next week, when we talk about in the study session, the budgets, you'll see many more funds. But this particular report is required by the state every quarter, as I mentioned, on the general unrestricted fund even. So they narrow it down even a little bit further. The format is established by the state. So many of you are very familiar with this. And Ann DiMartini, or Chair DiMartini, I need to say, now that we have this on the computer, you could blow it up. Remember that font was always so small, and I said there's nothing that the state has done over the years. But anyway, we can blow that up as large as we like, so it's nice to have that. What you're looking at is a historical trend of actual revenues in Part 1, the very top section. Actual revenues for 13-14, 14-15, 15-16, and then the far right column are the projected revenues currently adopted and approved by the Board of Trustees. Just following the revenues, and again, you're looking at a very high level because these are all the revenues rolled up into one bucket. Expenditures will show the unrestricted general fund expenditures historically, and you'll see next to expenditures what we call object codes, 1,000 through 6,000. In the simplest terms, the 1,000s and 6,000s are the general operations of the general fund. Following that, you'll see line B2, which shows object codes in the sequence of 7,000s. Those are expenditures, either transfers out of the general fund. There's a whole host of 7,000 series that are not general operations, but they are budgeted for specific purposes for either other funds, to move money into the restricted general fund. And so I just wanted to point that out. Again, you'll see the trend of the actual expenditures from fiscal years 13-14 through 15-16, and then the projected budget. Moving down, you'll see the beginning fund balance. That's on line D2. And then the fund balance ending for the projected year, going from 17 million to 12 million. And then the percentage of the expenditures, the unrestricted expenditures to the fund balance, or the fund balance as a ratio of the expenditures, are the percentages at the bottom. Moving on to section 2, we show the actual FTESs, full-time equivalent students, reported over the last 3 years, reported to the state and funded, and what we are budgeting for the current year. Again, next week we'll get into a little more detail on the full-time equivalent students, but I welcome any questions this evening as well. Excuse me, moving down, we also show the cash balances in the general fund. One thing I'd like to point out there, as we're looking at the 16-17 or even the 15-16 for that matter for the quarter ended, you might think, well, that's a lot of cash to have on hand. The way we operate all the funds of the district, the county treasury is, if you will, the bank for community colleges. But funds are posted into the unrestricted general fund. Thus, if we have a high cash balance, it simply means in most cases we haven't transferred all the categorical money out, any restricted funds that might be residing in the cash balance in the unrestricted fund. But by the end of the fiscal year, or generally by the end of, as we move forward through the spring, we'll be moving more of that money out. The state pays us on a monthly basis, but all of the categoricals and special programs don't come in at the same time. So some of that money stays in the general fund. It's all, again, with the county of Stanislaus, and then we'll transfer out to the appropriate funds as necessary. Moving then down to the next section for what we're showing here, again, at a very high level for the unrestricted general fund, the operating fund, is the adopted budget. The current budget, and we did make an amendment. You'll note there's a modest change between the adopted and the annual, and we brought that to the board a couple of months ago. And then the actual revenues and expenditures to date. And then on the far right, we are showing the percentage of the actual either received revenues or actual expenditures to date as compared to the budget. And you would expect around this time of year that we're looking about 50% of our revenues posted and around 50 or so percent of our expenditures. You'll note we're looking at about 43.3. That just simply means we're spending a little more slowly. We're pulling probably back on some discretionary funds at the colleges and the central office. And then finally, you'll see that adjusted fund balance, again, showing the revenues and expenditures and the adopted. On page 2, the state requires all districts to report on a quarterly basis if you have settled any major contracts through collective bargaining, through maybe rate benefit increases, and through working with the leadership team. You'll note that we have nothing to show as of the December 31st. And then very important, 6 and 7, ask the districts to report, self-report. Have you issued or have you had any material activity? And over the years, material activity has generally meant for our district, there could be other circumstances, but did you issue short-term debt? Did you issue trans? Those are tax revenue anticipation notes. The state would like to know that, the board would like to know that, colleges would like to know that, because they want to know, is our cash okay? Are we short on cash flow, or do we have to issue short-term notes? So we inform the state of that. And then the COPs are certificates of participation. Unlike general obligation bonds, COPs are long-term bonds, but they're the debt of the district. So you will note we have not issued any long-term or short-term debt in this quarter. And then finally, we're estimating out, do we have any significant fiscal problems that we haven't identified and are looking at a solution? Or we have identified and we simply cannot find a solution? And for this current year, the answer is no. And looking out into next year, the answer is no. That's what we want to see. We want to make sure we're planning ahead, and as we're maybe seeing some declines in our projected revenues, we're starting to plan for those. There were years in that Great Recession where we had to mark those boxes, yes, but also report to the state what the plan might be to bring ourselves back to an adequate fund balance. So that's the section that's the report to the state in their format. And then just following that, what we also present to our boards and our communities is how are we tracking to the same quarter in the prior year? And that is exactly what this next section is showing. This is our own district format, but we also submit that to the state, and they're very familiar with that as well. We're showing them the final budget, the second quarter, and then how we're tracking, which is the third column. And then we compare that to the fourth column. How are we tracking in the prior year in the various revenue line items as well as the expenditure line items, excuse me. The one area or the one line item that I'm sure that it raises a red flag for all of us is line 6. In the current year for other income, we're about 121.7% of what we budgeted. But look at the prior year, we were over 1,400, and you most likely would say what was going on there. For those of you that were around, those of you that were on the board and in the audience last year, we received a very large one-time mandated cost reimbursement. Our share was about $9 million. So it wasn't budgeted up front because we had no idea how the state was going to allocate or if they were going to allocate. So that's the main area I wanted to point out, that it looks like we're off track to the prior year, but actually the prior year was off track. Again, it was one time. The district had a plan, has a plan as to where those funds were allocated. And in fact, that plan has been complete for the prior year. Then going down to the expenditures, comparing the current year second quarter to the prior year, just again focusing on the percentages spent as compared to the budget, we're pretty much right in line with the prior year. Actually, a little bit more spending, but still under the 50% of the year. So with that, what we do, we file this with the state chancellor's office upon your approval, but I would love to entertain any questions or answer any concerns you might have with formats, the way we're presenting and describing.
Teresa, is this report based on the contingency of the infamous May revise?
No, thank
Oh, good.
Trustee Martin. What Trustee Martin is asking is, are we reporting right now estimating what may happen in May? What this is the current year activity. What we will bring to the board no later than June will be activities from the January budget release through the May revise. The May budget revise will have changes to the 16-17 budget potentially and the 17-18 budget. But thank you for that question. Right now, it's basically our adopted budget with a modest amendment for the current fiscal year without incorporating any estimated changes that may come down from the state.
So Teresa, thank you for the information. I, followed the format, so happy with that, so thank you. I know we have a study session coming up, and you mentioned it, so I'll just add, I would really like to hear now that CalSTRS has lowered their assumed rate of return, and you're going to hear this from me a lot, but I have some concerns long-term because the governor had his plan that all school districts and cities and everybody that contracts with PERS or school districts like ourselves that have STRS and PERS, 2046 was the date he set for 100% funded. Well, that's changed a little bit now with the lowering of these assumed rate of returns, and I would really like to see a focus in that study session to the best that you can, what we're going to look like 5, 10 years down the road, because I do have some concerns about, because they've changed and there is talk that they're going to change some more. Staff was wanting at STRS to lower it down to 6.2%, and they may do that if the returns don't come in. So I would like to see, based on what we know now, on top of this accelerated funding plan, which you guys anticipated that. Now it's changed. If it changes again, where does that put us? So maybe just an overview of 3 scenarios: current, the change, and a potential worsening change, for lack of a better term. So yeah.
Okay.
Because I have, as well as you do, I'm sure, have some concerns about these changes.
Yes, we have had a lot of concerns about those. In fact, our controller and our VP just went to a PERS workshop where PERS was presented and discussing all those things. The discount rate is a huge concern for STRS and PERS because it was up over 7%. Looking at returns just in our own daily lives and watching county treasury payments, et cetera, we know that 7 is high. We know that. But now how do we all at the local level deal with that? So we'll be more than happy to do that. We were working with US Bank earlier this week, and same topic comes up all over the state. It's just everyone is really worried, whether you're a community college, a K-12, or a city government.
Well, I think you will see over the next 5 years, unfortunately, I think you will see small municipalities and small districts either have to completely reorganize themselves or they will go bankrupt.
The one area that I pointed out when I was talking about the revenue and the 1,000% increase over the prior year, part of that one-time mandated cost reimbursement is what we did put aside for future years, but we know very well it's not going to cover us to 2046.
Right.
So I'll show you how many
I
years.
think you set aside, what is it, 2.5 million?
We have 6 million in there now.
Oh, you have 6 in there now.
Uh-huh.
And what is US Bank getting on a annualized rate of return on that?
Well, this money resides with the county treasury.
Okay.
Our discussions with, well, actually, no, it doesn't. I apologize. What we were doing or looking at, because we have our retiree liability funds in there as well, which is about 29 million right now. Long discussion we had on that. For the 6 million fund, we had gone to a very, very, very conservative investment.
So like an index, like a very low interest index?
Low interest as well as fixed income.
Right.
Now, the dilemma and the problem right now, and like I said, we spent over these couple hours on that, is with interest rates rising, the fixed assets are going to take a little hit. So our banker, who I know I have a lot of confidence in, just brings us such great information every quarter. I think Sarah would say the same thing. We're all just sitting there going, he goes, for the first time ever, he said, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know. But he says, I guarantee I'm analyzing all the numbers coming from all the indexes for us. And then they added, I think they wanted to make sure the district knew, which we knew. They have teams and teams and teams of people behind them in the weeds.
Sure.
But right now, I'm thinking the year to date, because we've only been in a short time, so rates started rising right after we put that money in there. So the returns are not looking great at all right now. But it is just a function of those rates on fixed income going up.
Yeah, and not only on the discount rate does it impact what we pay as the employer share, but then it raises the rate for the employee share as well. So it's going to impact everybody. So thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Yes, so under line 6, when it says other, I guess it's not real clear to me, what is that money spent on exactly?
So when we budget other income, each year, the state will allocate monies, well, not each year, but they have been monies that if they have mandated revenue, excess revenues, things that might go back in time, what they will do is allocate it to the district. And as an example, for the prior year, what we're putting some money into those retirement accounts that we're talking about. We're transferring some money to other restricted funds. I can bring a schedule of what we're doing with all of that. The other income line item over the years has maybe been about 400, 500,000. Last couple, it's gone up because the state economy started going up. But they're generally dollar amounts that we really don't know how to estimate at the beginning of the year. So we don't have a particular plan for those other incomes, but once we see them start coming in, that's what I was explaining on the prior year. Once we knew we were getting, it was close to $9 million, then we went through a process to allocate those funds. So the other line items, state apportionment, state other income, non-resident tuition, those are straightforward to budget for. That doesn't mean we're going to achieve all of those. Even lottery, line 7, interest income fluctuates, but we're tracking the interest rates. It's that other income that is an unknown usually to us, to some extent.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no more questions, at this time, the Board of Trustees will conduct a public hearing to review the district's financial report for the quarter ending December 31st, 2016, which Teresa has just gone through. So I'd like to declare our public hearing open and invite anyone who has questions to come forward.
Curtis is getting up.
Yeah, I thought it was, yeah, I was gonna, yeah, I mean, don't move at that time, I'll focus all eyes. Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion to adopt the recommended action to submit the copy to the California Community College Chancellor's Office.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Darren Garrett, for moving that, and thank you, Don Viss, for seconding it. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion has carried. And we are now down to board comments and future agenda items. So I'll ask if we have a volunteer that would like to go first.
Oh, you're looking at me.
Well, I'm asking for a
ready.
volunteer.
I'm ready.
All right, take it away, Abe.
I'm sorry. I was able to attend the RDA Oversight Committee in Houston, and the following day to attend the one in Turlock. I did participate in or attended the MJC Club Rush, and I managed to get there when everybody was eating, so I got to look at all the club offerings and visiting with the club members. I also attended the VIP JPA Community Colleges Consortium in Napa, and I also, what else did I do here? I met with the chancellor. We had a good conversation. And then I was really intrigued and went to see the photo gallery by the 11 women that is being offered at locally here at our gallery. And it's really an intriguing set of portraits. I attended the Off Balance Backstage Rehearsal Information Night, and they show what goes on in order to put on the performance that is going to be offered next week. And it was quite interesting. And I also attended the swearing in of the new Turlock Police Chief, Nino Amafar. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Let's go next to Siegfried.
All right. Thank you, Board Chair. I attended the ASMJC Senate meeting on January 13th. I attended the board study session on the 18th. I was also at District Council on the 25th. And I also attended Club Rush, which was the 26th, and that was a really good turnout. It's always a great event. I met with Brian Justin Marks, our Associate Dean of Campus Life and Student Learning. He's actually there right now. And spoke to him about how to be as effective as I can in my position. He also gave me a book that was given to a lot of our staff and faculty titled Redesigning California Community Colleges. And as a matter of fact, Brian, I still have yet to get into that. I've been a little bit busy, but I'll get to that. And then, of course, I was at the Effective Trusteeship and Legislative Conference from the 27th through the 30th. There was a lot of really incredibly useful information and a lot of really cool, great connections I made. I will have, well, I'll go over briefly what happened there, but Friday and Saturday was the Effective Trusteeship portion of the conference, and there were sessions and discussions regarding dual enrollment, ethics and law, and presentations on, how to help our students complete college more quickly. And a lot of really, really great information. And Sunday and Monday rather, I was able to speak with Senator Richard Pan after a town hall session. And on Monday, I was able to contact the offices of Kathleen Galgiani and Jeff Denham. And although I was kind of disappointed not to be able to meet them personally, I am now able to not only meet with them personally on my own time, but I'll be able to instruct my successor, the student trustee, to effectively advocate for our colleges in the coming year and at coming conferences. I also had a really, sorry, I'm going on, but a lot of really quality time with the rest of the board that I think is useful. That I mean, just in regards to communicating the right way and making sure I can make effective decisions and communications, and it was very valuable to me. So during that conference, there was another meeting I had on Saturday, the 28th. I was part of the CCAST meeting, so the California Community Colleges Association of Student Trustees. They held a meeting at that on Saturday evening. And most recently, on Monday, I was at the Policy and Procedures Ad Hoc Committee. So I know that's a lot. Jan, I will be sure to give you my reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Siegfried. Let's move down to Don.
I don't have a report. I never recovered from the senior moment I was in last month.
Well, we're glad you're here tonight. John, do you have your report?
Yeah, so I also attended the Conference of Community College League on the 27th and the 28th. I had to leave early because I am, among the many things I do, I'm on the Modesto Chamber of Commerce member, and I sit on two of the most important committees there. And so I had to attend the 103rd Annual Chamber Gala, which takes place every year in January. And it's actually where I met George Bedrukis for the first time. He was there, and we were chatting up with our congressman. He tells me everything's just fine. I don't know if you want to verify that these days with Congress, but I also attended on the 3rd of this month the ribbon cutting and tea party for the fundraiser at Columbia College for their new lending library at the Child Development Center. And that's what I have to report.
Okay, thank you very much. Leslie?
So, am I on? I'm live? Okay. So I went to the Chelsea America art reception and just with some members of my family and discovered that some of her work is already hanging in one of my son's homes. So that was really cool. So I've been to the Policies and Procedures Committee meeting or ad hoc committee. Are we standing or ad hoc? I haven't figured that out. We will be standing. Okay. We were sitting then. Okay. And then I went to the science colloquium, the first one, the kickoff. It was really interesting. We had two former students. One gave a presentation about the ins and outs of applying to medical school. And she has a blog, and I'm now one of her blog followers. And the other one, she did summer research, summer lab work, and she talked about what a great experience that was, and she had all kinds of cool information about that. I went to the trustee conference, and it was great getting to know the other new trustees and Siegfried. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciated it. Learned a lot. I have, I'm now up to 2 bookshelves of trustee binders and sheets, and I don't know, I need to buy more space. And then I also went to part of the legislative conference, and that was interesting also. I held my first open office hour sort of casual chat time, and that was really fun. I love to meet people in very low stress environment, and I want to make it easier for students to come, so I need to ask Siegfried to help me with that, and staff. So I'm going to hold it from 4 to 6 instead to make it more accessible. But anyway, that was really fun too. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Lynn?
I attended the Policy and Procedures meeting on Monday, and I attended the Columbia College Foundation meeting, and I attended the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce annual dinner with President Fairchilds, where Columbia College was nominated for a Community Recognition Award. And we didn't get it, but as Angie said, it's better than them throwing rocks at us. And I would also like to publicly commend Trustee Darren for giving me his position on the Chancellor Search Committee. I thought that was awesome. So thank you, Darren.
Okay, Darren, let's hear your activities.
Well, I did have some activities, but I gave the balance of my time to Siegfried and Dawn, so. But, no, I went to the Woodland West Neighborhood Watch meeting, and I want to thank our campus public safety staff for being there, so thank you very much. I also had a great meeting, as Debbie pointed out, with Debbie, and it was nice just getting in that environment and casually talking, and we did talk about a lot about Modesto, I think more than we talked about the college and old history and stuff. And I met with the Academic Senate, so thank you, Curtis. I want to thank the Chancellor and President Stearns for a very productive meeting on our CTE and workforce programs and where we're at and where we need to go. So I want to thank you both for taking time to inform me of all that good information. I attended the board study session, and I'm looking forward to the next ones in the future. And I, too, attended the league conference in Sacramento. It was very interesting. And it was interesting because I learned a lot, but I got the impression that the league has had some bad experiences with other boards up and down the state because they sure spent a